Hi, everybody. Mark Victor Hansen here, and welcome to a show that's going to expand your mind, illuminate you, and inspire you in ways of hopefulness and helpfulness that maybe you hadn't expected. I've got my neighbor and friend here, Ken McElroy, who is just a mensch. If you know that term, it means he's got it together, knows he's got it together, and his results click. Now, he used to have a regular job like a regular person, and then he decided to have his own company, which we're going to talk about. And now his company owns over 10,000 properties with a goal in the next 5 years of going to 25,000 copies. He's written great, inspiring books to help everybody get a hand out, but a hand up, although he is one of the great philanthropists of our time. So, Ken, back when you were a corporate type guy and you were working for somebody, you're out of college and all that, and you worked even as a laborer with your dad back at Boeing up in Seattle, so I got your stuff down pretty well. How did you have the courage to leave a job and start your own business, and how can somebody else do the same?
You know, environment is stronger than will, as you know. So per Buckminster Fuller would say, environment is stronger than will. I believe that. And what happened was my parents both didn't go to college. They had an incredible work ethic. And my mom was a hairdresser, and my dad was a contractor, as you know. And so I grew up, you know, watching them scrap it out, but it just wasn't enough. And so when I got thrust into the next level, you know, I didn't even know what that was like. And, but then I got on that paycheck program, and then I realized the limitations from it. I really did. I saw the risks. And the risks to me were very calculated returns on your wages each and every year if you did a good job. Sometimes quotas grew and size of territories shrunk and you know, companies were growing. So I was seeing this, the corporate America was doing just fine.
And making you less and less.
Yeah. And I don't know why I saw it so clearly, but I did. And I just said, you know, gosh, I'm not going to get ahead at, you know, 2 to 3% wage growth. While inflation, you know, and back in the 80s, it was, you know, over double digit. And then it, you know, of course, tempered down for a while, but now it's back up again. So I felt like I was falling behind. I certainly was financially, and that's where I was seeing it the most.
So you're sitting in a restaurant and you're talking to your boss, and the guy comes over and talks to you, and your boss insults you in front of that guy.
Well, first of all, I think if you pay attention, that always happens. Yeah. But a lot of times the corporate America is their job. That's why they give you these 401ks, and they give you these profit sharing plans, and they give you all of these things to keep you there. They're hooks. Any kind of vesting or anything like that. The reason they trickle it is to keep you there. So at some point, if you're there long enough, you're hooked. You
lose your sovereignty and freedom.
Correct, and you have a lot to walk away from. So the whole point of corporate America is to start offering things and build on them and build on them and build on them. And so all of a sudden, you're walking away from something big, and so it keeps you there, and you sacrifice, and I believe, your freedom.
I believe, like we've talked before, there are two kinds of education, academic, and both of us did that game. But the more important is self-help action. How did you get into self-help? Because you graduated college and you said you didn't like reading when you graduated, which a lot of the people out there are probably in that zone.
I was done it. Honestly, for whatever reason, I believe that once I got through school, I didn't need to learn anymore. It was the worst thought. That now that I look back, I just, you know, but what happened was I ended up going to some personal development stuff. And one of them was actually at my college with a guy by the name of Frosty Westering. And he wrote a book called Make the Big Time Where You're At. He was our head football coach. And he's one of the most winningest football coaches in the history of the NCAA. If you just Google him, you'll see. He passed away not long ago, but he gave me this book, and I took his class. It was actually a class I could take at school. It was called Make the Big Time Where You're At. And it was full of things that you say and Harvey McKay says, and, you know, people.
All our buddies.
Yeah. That I now look
all
up,
of us.
Yeah. Now that I look up to. And they were all kind of along, you know, there maybe the words were a little bit different, but it was all the same. Like you are in control of your life, and it's no one else's fault but yours. And you got to clean up what's in here first. And then you have to, unlearn, relearn. And it was all kind of the same stuff. So when I watch you or or some of the older guys, like guys that I just love, like Tom Hopkins, and anybody that it's kind of all the same messaging, but basically we all have what we have from our what we're taught, or whatever we learned or didn't learn, and that's it. That's where you are. And so it's up to you to fine tune that, soften those rough edges. And I just poured myself into it. Once I got to, I think in school, it was kind of like you have to read this book and you have to do a test on it. But once I actually saw the freedom of being able to read whatever I wanted to read, it was actually very different. Because and so now of course I buy books that I want to read, and so I just pour myself into those, and what happened is, just little by little over time, you change. Just a little bit at a time. And so when I go to a seminar, which I go to a lot now, as you know, or I'm reading a book, I always actually just try to take one or two things out of the book and apply them. That's it, in the whole book.
How does somebody today, given all the conundrum of problems, the puzzles of problems, go from zero to hero in the quickest way? Is there a safe, quick, easy way that you see right now?
I think the best thing people could do is study people who have done it.
Right.
And it's funny, like somehow, I laugh at, somebody said to me the other day, they go, do you know how much Warren Buffett gets for 1 hour of time, because it's auctioned, right? It's all kind of public. And it was like somewhere between $1 million and $2 million. And for an hour with him, right? And I'm like, well, I could just buy his book for $25. And that is the point. Literally, you can watch these people talk, whether it's, really, really, really smart people. You can read what they're doing. And I'm talking about, I'm still doing it. I learned to meditate later in life as a result of reading, what are people that I admire, like Richard Branson or let's say Tony Robbins, and what do they do every day? And all of them said meditate. So I started, and I know you do. So I started to. And so these are small things that you can do. I don't know the reason, and now I do. But at the time, I didn't understand it. But I just tried it and I did it, and now it's something. I did it this morning, and I think these are all things that people have done. They've perfected in their own lives. That is the best way. You got to be careful of who are your teachers. You can't find happiness. It's in you. It always was. Think of you as a kid. What happens is you just have to give something up to get it back. You don't actually go acquire it. So so when you start to look and you start to be aware, to your point, all you're trying to do is find out what you're unaware of, and what are you doing unconsciously or subconsciously that is from your pre-programming, and then be aware of it. And once you're aware of it, it's no longer in your subconscious. Now all of a sudden you're working on it. That's all. So for me, I'm always just working on my awareness of things that, why do I get up the same way? Maybe some of us grab our phone, or some of us go get a cup of coffee, and we have our little habits, and then next thing or you're driving and you're not paying attention, you're not aware. There's all these things that we do every single day. And and you, as if you change your habits,
you change your life.
You can change your life.